Hi, my name is Jerry Vasey, and the show is I Can't Write Right? And today I'm privileged to have the librarian from Highgate with me, Liza Comiskey. I think I got it right, too.
Liza Comiskey,
And,
but that's all right.
And she's the librarian there, and I'm going to talk to her. Have you started your story yet? This is a good place to start. You can write a nice little small story and that youngsters can read and enjoy. And hi, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's okay. Well, before we sat down, you were talking about a particular book. I know children's books are loaded with pictures, except for one.
Yes.
And you say it's the most popular one for people out there writing that can't draw. It's a good idea to know that there's such a book out there.
It's actually probably one I could write and do it right. It actually is the book with no pictures, which I brought, and it is. When it first came out, I was pretty skeptical. Like, who is going to want to read a book to children? Because pictures are the main focus, and really what helps a lot of the children be able to learn how to read by looking at the pictures. And then associating the words with that. But this one is a unique book because it does not have any pictures. But you know, you start out reading it and the kids are like, this is gonna be boring. And then it's amazing how it captures their attention because it's just a book filled with silly words and just silly things. And so the way that we incorporated it into our story time was, you know, we read it during story time, and there were lots of laughs and giggles because we love to fill. In Highgate, we're a silly library. We love to be silly. We're all kids at heart, and so we read the book, and then our activity for the day was the kids would pick a page, and they would then draw the picture to go with it. So that was actually one of our most fun story times, and it's a very simple book. It just has words, silly words.
Now, words matter.
Words do.
to quote my professor at school, yeah, they do, and the children normally would associate a picture with a word. In that book, it takes a word and you associate the picture with it. It's a very, very good idea.
Yes.
I like it. Now, I've been to your library. I was quite impressed. I'm from a very small town, and the library there would die to have one as good as you have. And I understand it started out, the library was just a part of it, and then there's two other things in the same library, right?
Yes. It was the town in 1897 voted at town meeting to appropriate some funds to start a library. And so the first library, you know, that we had eventually, you know, fire consumed it. And so in the 40s, the current building that we're in, which is pretty tiny, but we were able, the thought of other organizations within the town being in there just boggles my mind right now. But it housed the library, and where our children's room is now used to be the town clerk's office, and we still have the original vault that went with the town clerks. And then our Vermont room, which is in the back, was actually our historical society.
Wow.
And so the town clerks and the historical society have since moved to different buildings, and we now have the whole building to ourselves.
I know I've walked around it, and I know you have quiet places. You know, the old theory of a quiet librarian sitting there tapping down, shut up. But your place is nowhere near like that. You have a quiet room for a person to read quietly, I see. And then you have one section that's just kind of dedicated to youngsters.
Yeah.
And then you have one section that's just normal and historic, sort of, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And, believe me, I was quite impressed. For a little town, and this is just next to a gas station, across from a park, and the first one I had when I was in school was blocks away from the school at the bottom of the hill, and there's traffic going in all sorts of directions, and you just were almost afraid to go there. I don't think I'd ever be afraid to go in that library. It's just...
It's, you know, it's a pretty amazing space that we have. You know, it's very welcoming. We want people when they come to the library to feel like it's their environment, it's their library, because it is their library. And libraries are about books. We're always going to be about books, but you know, as times are changing, libraries all across the country are changing, and as are the services and the programs that we offer. So, you know, we aren't a quiet library. There are times it is quiet, but we're not a quiet library. We're a library for our community. We're the center of the community, a community center, really, of sorts. And, you know, we want people to feel welcome and to come and visit us.
Do you have Wi-Fi?
We do have Wi-Fi.
I know one library has a problem with their Wi-Fi, that some people just go in there all day long and play games, but that sounds like something that sort of fits. I mean, as long as they're peaceful and you know, don't get disruptive. Getting into I Can't Write Right, tell me something about how important it is to get your children reading at a young age, and what sort of things that they like to read, most of which have pictures, but
Yes.
it doesn't have to have pictures.
Incorporating literacy and reading to your children every day is important, you know, starting even before they're born.
Before they're born?
Before they're born. I know it sounds crazy, but really, you know, reading out loud, talking to your baby even before they're born, because they can hear you. You know, maybe not reading them books, but I'm probably one of the, I know I'm not the only one, but I did read to my baby before I even had them. And, you know, as soon as they're born, start reading to them. And, you know, a lot of parents, when they're reading to children, we have a lot of books that have big words like investigate or, you know, scientific. It's important to continue to use those words and not change the words as you're reading them to your children, so that they're exposed to, you know, to every word, to different language that's out there, and it helps develop their vocabulary, and just reading to them. We have a lot of board books at our library. You know, just tons of different books for children to read, and not sticking to just picture books for your children, but nonfiction books as well. You know, children are sponges, and they take everything in. And you know, even if you have a 2-year-old during story time, I have a lot of parents who say, you know, my child's not sitting down. You know, they're not listening to the story, they're walking around, and that's okay. You know, we understand that not every child is going to sit down and listen to a story, but while they're up and walking around and, you know, checking things out, they're listening, and so they're still learning. So to get them to love books, you know, having them be a part of everything, incorporating them into everything. When you see your child just sitting there, it's amazing to see some of the little guys come in, and the babies, and they'll just sit there and they'll just look at the pictures, you know, in the books, and study them. And one of the, you know, for babies especially, babies and toddlers love looking at pictures of other children. And this is one of the books that we give away to our families when we do our Born to Read program in March. Every year we dedicate a book to a baby born in Highgate, so they get a nameplate put in a book. So that, and this is another way children are excited when they come to the library, because they get to see if they can find, you know, the book with their nameplate. So every book will have a, you know, this book was dedicated to, and it will say the child's name and the year that they were born. So for the kids, knowing that there's a book at the library that has their name in it is pretty exciting, and that's something we do for all of our Highgate newborns.
Makes me want to live in Highgate. Okay, we're about writing, right? And if I was okay, all of a sudden I wanted, I'm writing a book and I'm not very good at it, but all of a sudden, okay, say I wanted to take my character and move it back. So I'm writing a child's book about my character. How would I go about that? What things would I have to keep in mind?
Well, there's such a different level when you're writing children's books. Are you going to be writing it for an infant or a toddler? Are you going to write it for a 3 to 5-year-old, or are we going to go for a school age? School age books, you're going to have more language, more words in your book. For the preschoolers, it's going to be a lot more about the pictures and less words. The toddlers and infants, there's words, but it's also about the pictures because that's what they're looking at. I would say for the preschoolers, to get their attention, you're going to want to have your character be silly, fun, incorporate rhyming words, so that they like it when they can anticipate what's going to happen on the next page.
Oh.
Like Brown Bear is a good example of that, because it gives you clues as to, and then what do you think might be on the next page? And they like to see, am I right? It's kind of the same with I Ain't Gonna Paint No More, which is one of my favorite books, which is a rhyming book, and then they have to figure out what body part could rhyme with the words that I just said, and but making your character have a silly adventure, a fun adventure, something that's going to resonate, and something that they're dealing with in their lives.
Now, for my watchers that are actually writing and anticipating writing, I've heard that libraries are different than bookstores. A bookstore, you buy something, you take it home, you keep it forever, and you need to have money enough to buy the next book if you want more books, and they're on the shelf for as long until you do something with them. But a library is different, and the two seem, I talked to Donna from the Eloquent Page, and she thought a lot of libraries, even though she has a bookstore, and she told me that there's a major difference. So in your mind, what is the difference between a library and a bookstore where they're actually selling a book rather than?
We have a lot of similarities in that, we're there to present the books to the patrons or the customers. We have bookshelves filled with books for people to choose from. But the difference in the library is it's accessible to everyone. Whereas a bookstore, there are a lot of families who may not have the extra funds to purchase a book for their child or to purchase a book for themselves. Whereas with a library card, the possibilities are endless. We don't go based upon your income, and that one card can buy you thousands and thousands of dollars worth of adventures.
And when you get done, you bring it back.
And when you bring them back, and you get to take more out. And a lot of people I have noticed in our community, and I am sure this is happening in other communities, I'd say within the last 5 years, will come in and they'll say, I just don't know why I haven't been using the library. I usually buy my books, but now, I was going to buy it, and I said, why am I going to spend this money when I can just go to the library and borrow it and bring it back? Because I'm someone who I will not read a book twice. Children's books are different for me, but I will not read a book twice. So if I'm going to go purchase a book, I'd rather go to the library
and then if you go to the library and you're starting to read books and you find one that for one reason or other is so special that you want to keep it, you go down.
Yes.
Because I know the bookstores can get you almost any book that within
Yes.
reason that you want, even some real historical ones that you can't find out there.
Yes.
Um,
And one good thing about our libraries in the state of Vermont is that we have an interlibrary loan system. So if, say, you're a patron in Highgate and you want a book and we don't have it, as long as it's been out for 6 months, so it's not new, it's as long as it's been on the shelf for 6 months, we can request it if it's at another library within the state at no cost to our patrons. So, you know, libraries are pretty great.
oh, they are.
Pretty great. And when you think about what it would cost you to buy all the books that you have checked out, you probably would, your mind would probably be blown with.
Speaking of that, I understand that if you're going to, if a library is interested in getting a book, it has to be one that's published through a publisher. It can't be a one that somebody published themselves. That doesn't have SKU numbers and all that other stuff, right?
That is not true.
Well, it's not true.
Nope. Libraries can get any book that's available to them. It's all in cataloging. If we can buy it on Amazon or we can get it through our book dealers. If we can get it, we can put it on our shelves. A lot of smaller libraries, like Highgate, for example, if it's a book that is out of the realm where our community may not, we have to weigh spending the money versus is it going to circulate? Because there are times we may purchase a book and it doesn't circulate. And, so we know as librarians what works in our communities and what doesn't. But if it's available, we can get it. We have several Vermont authors who we have their books. For cataloging purposes, it makes it, if you're automated like we are, it makes it a lot easier if there's a barcode, a SKU number, because then it will pull up a record and it will give us the subject heading. So when people are searching for a book on, say, dogs, it will pop up in their search. So,
Do you have any books on Highgate?
We don't. We do and we don't. It's a unique situation. We have a book that is so old that sadly it can't be taken out of the collection. It was from like 1873. It's a Vermont book, but it has a detailed history on Highgate. And so we have specific, we've copied the pages so that it is still usable. People can still use it for research. But a book on Highgate would be amazing.
Somebody out there in Highgate might just write one now that they've listened to you on.
I think we have a wonderful person who has such a wealth of knowledge of history, and that's Mr. Nye, who is our Historical Society. And he is who I go to when people ask for historical information. But a book with his information would be...
Maybe we can talk him into writing one. I mean, that's what this show's all about. I understand, and I learned myself the hard way, that you write your book real quick and then you go back and enhance it, and then you go back and enhance it again and again and again and again. And so if somebody doesn't think that they can write, especially like Mr. Nye, maybe he says, "Yeah, I'm reluctant," but he could write it down what he wants and get all the help he needs in making it really unique and unique to Highgate. I like that idea.
I think,
maybe you can twist his arm a little bit.
He's pretty busy these days, but I think the information that he has, if someone was able, that if he gave it, he sat down with them and they wrote the book, I see that as something that would be extremely beneficial for our community. When
I talked to you, if somebody came in with a book that had pictures in it, nobody's name or anything like that,
yes.
And I don't know who that was, but something like that is immensely valuable to the area, because people go to Highgate and they don't leave.
Yes.
I mean, some people do, but families just stay there, and that would be great.
Yes. Highgate is a pretty unique community, and it's funny, growing up, I said, I am never going to live in Highgate. I grew up in Sheldon, and I don't know, it's been 20 years since I've moved there, and I would never leave. Highgate is truly my home.
Great. Yeah, that is good. Now, writing isn't necessarily always books. I understand from doing meetings there that there are grant writers.
Yes.
And you actually write your own grants, right?
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about what it's like to write a grant. I mean, there's a lot at stake when you're doing that, and it's writing just like any other kind of writing.
Right.
And some people need to not be afraid of it.
Right. I think a lot of people are intimidated when it comes to writing grants because, you know, you're asking for money, so you're in competition with other, you know, organizations or groups that are writing grants. I was intimidated at first, but I've been doing it for 10 years, and I still get intimidated. It does take a lot of work. It's a lot of time dedicated to even a simple grant, because you got to do your research, and then it's like writing. You read it, what you've written down. You read it again. Sometimes my children laugh at me when I do it, but I have to read it out loud so that I can hear how it sounds.
That's the same with a lot of writing.
And
you read it out loud, and then if you record yourself reading it out loud and you look at it later, you go, wow.
That doesn't sound right. And then I do send it to, you know, one of our trustees, or I might send it to, you know, another librarian and just say, can you just look this over for me? And that's the great thing is, you know, you need to reach out for help and support, and that's...
I know Highgate has another person that writes grants that I just am amazed. She's so prolific at grants. And then you got to do what you said you were going to do in the grant. Right.
Carrying out the grant. Sometimes, you know, I know last year I wrote a lot of grants, and this has never happened. You know, you write a lot of grants, you may send out 6, and you think, I'll get 1 or 2. Well, I got them all. You know, well, not me, but the library got them all. And I went into panic mode because I didn't plan on getting them all, and now I have to deliver these services, so we have to get help from the community to deliver them, and that was one of our garden programs. It was great. You know, we did it. We have a beautiful side lawn, garden area, and
oh yeah, I understand it. Your garden is prolific too, the way
yes.
I understand it.
Yes. If the community hasn't come to see it, you know, we'd love to invite people to stop by just to see the work that the kids have done this summer.
Now, you also have it's sort of like a triangle going by the library and then back up another street. Are they going to do something to make that more people-friendly for the library, or?
You know, it's something we're working on with the town. We've talked about it. You know, we've talked with the Planning Commission, the Select Board, and it is in the process. It is a very strange, you know, setup, having that V there. And, you know, parking is always an issue for us at the library, but what just amazes me is that our families and community members don't let them stop them from coming to the library for events. You'll see cars parked all around the park and everywhere.
Now, I've seen you in select board meetings too, back in the day, and that's a big library that they're in there. Is there any big differences between a school library and a public library other than the age groups?
There is. You know, the school libraries are obviously only open to the school, whereas the public is to everybody. And a lot of community libraries that are located within the school are actually making the switch to become separated and become their own public libraries, like Fairfield did, just because there's becoming a lot of concerns about bringing you know, incorporate with all the safety concerns going on in the world with bringing the public into a school. But the school library really focuses a lot on the standards that the kids have to meet. So, you know, the kids who use the library are graded just as they are in classes. That, you know, they get they're taught, you know, how to do research. So it's very standards based, but it's still fun. You know.
Yeah, in your library, silliness in the youngster section is almost recommended.
Yes.
And in the school, I doubt very seriously if it is.
Well, we have a great school librarian, and she's pretty amazing. I'm sure they don't get as crazy as we do. We definitely, you know, we encourage them to make it their space. They play. During story time, we do a lot of music and movement as well. We have bubbles. We do movement ribbons. We get out our instruments, and so that's where it's different.
That sounds different to me.
That's where it's different.
And yeah, and I like that. If you're writing a book for an age group and it's going to go to a library, and it probably will if it's decent and you publish it, then you want to write it for the silliness that the kids like, not just yeah, my cat is, you know. And it's a serious book on cats. Well, we got to wrap this up, and I am so thrilled that you came.
Well, thank you for inviting me and letting me be part of your story.
Well, you definitely are, and I think if I were a writer to write young books for young people, I would probably visit Highgate Librarian and look to see what they've got, and oh yeah, this is how other people did it, and so I got to wrap it up now, and my people, now you know that you can write a child's book. You may even get your child involved in writing as well as reading. What would they like at their age group? What's interesting to them, and then get it published and see if libraries will do it. And I guess you can do it even if I've got one person that's self-published that is having to distribute themselves. So you can get your library involved with that if it's something that they think would be interesting. And so we gotta call it quits for today. And I could go on for hours, but I could talk to this young lady for days. But we got to go now, and you get back to writing your book, and let me know how your book's coming. I mean, I talked to this camera, and I don't know anything that's going on out there, and I really want to. And if you know of anybody that might be interesting on the show, then have them get a hold of us, and we'll put them on the show and let everybody see how interesting they are. So you guys take care, and we'll catch you again. This is Jerry Vasey and
Liza Comiskey.
Liza Comiskey, and this is I Can't Write Right. Thank you very much.